I share this, and I hope I won't get like involuntary committed by John Hughes or something like that. Welcome to another episode. What do we say? We say welcome once again. I guess we say welcome once again to Chill Filter, the podcast where we drink whiskey so that you don't have to, but you probably should, and you probably are. And this is darn good Cask strength scotch, and that's why we like you.
I didn't know if you're going to get to the last part. You did, though. I thought
there's always time.
You got it. On your feet. Been off for a while. Been gone for a while.
Nimble, you know? Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, it's a great episode. You know, it's been only 2 episodes away from when I, took off for paternity leave, but I kind of missed it. You know, I kind of
recording-wise, it's been like 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Because we did 2 the 1 week because I left for
3
Mexico.
or 4, yeah. I'll have to look when we did it, but yeah, either way, it's been too long, and I kind of just needed to get my therapy session in, and that's the thing. And before I ask you how you're doing, Robby, I will talk about me for a little bit.
You do. Everybody's wondering, how are you, man?
No, yeah, exactly. I'm doing good. I got a new baby girl, and she is 4 pounds and 3 ounces ish. And she is small but mighty. I love her so much. Her name is Gray Victoria. And I am just loving it. And this is kind of my last weekday of paternity leave this week. Next Monday, when this episode comes out, I'll be back at work. So I've enjoyed a few weeks off, but I've also figuring stuff out. To be honest, I remember the first when Gray was born that week. I was not intentionally, but unintentionally, my pharmacy sucks, and they were late in getting back one of my prescriptions. It took over a week for them to get me my prescription, and that really threw off my chemistry. And that was the week that Gray was born.
And that'll throw off everything.
Yeah, not a good time. And so I was thinking maybe it's just because I miss recording and I miss our therapy sessions. And that might have been part of it. But I also realized hey, my chemistry was way off. And I had, I'm not afraid to share this. But I don't always get super down. I get stressed. I get angry sometimes. But I also, one of the big symptoms I've started to realize that is my chemistry is off. And I didn't always think this. I used to think maybe that's just who I am. But this is going to sound weird, but I deal with suicidal thoughts a lot. And especially when my chemistry is off. And I kind of just put it together of well, I'm not sad, but I have these thoughts. And I share this, and I hope I won't get involuntary committed by John Hughes or something like that. But I share this because I started to realize that when drug companies say side effects are suicidal thoughts, that kind of just hit me of it doesn't say you're so sad that you want to kill yourself. It's no, you just have suicidal thoughts. And it's very interesting. It's like a very special side effect, or potentially a withdrawal effect of certain drugs. And I started to realize that okay, I need to be very careful with this, because yes, most of the time I will not plan to act on those suicidal thoughts. But sometimes I what's the word? I think about it a little more than I should.
Ruminate a little bit more.
Ruminate, yeah. And let it linger. And think about the other side a little too much. And I'm not against death. I welcome it, when that day comes, but I don't want to welcome it too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the things. But luckily, since over the past week and a half, probably, I've been good. My chemistry is back on track. The prescription kind of came through, and we're back on track, and that's all good. And I don't that one guy is going to be like, what a depressive episode. No, it's not depressive. It's suicidal episode. And so, and yeah, but anyway, that guy can suck an egg or whatever we used to say. But we keep it real here. And I know, Robby, you're having a hard day. Kind of. Yeah. And you don't have to go fully into it, but I know maybe it will become a depressive episode. But I'm on your pace on this, Robbie. So
No,
how are you doing? I know you've had summer break. I know you had even a Yellowstone trip with your daughters recently. But tell me what's going on with you.
Yeah, no, it's went to Yellowstone this week. It was great. We took
Mhm.
my father-in-law's got a Mercedes Sprinter that we borrowed, and
Yeah.
it was tricky because Finley and Amara were like all about it. They wanted to go see stuff and do stuff. Juniper was a little
Yeah.
more reluctant. Juniper's the mommy
Okay.
girl too, so it was
Yeah.
a little tricky. And I felt
Okay.
like our first morning there was a little lackluster. It was hard, like
Totally.
because it was one of those things where like, well, Junie didn't want to go, so it's like Chelsea
Oh.
wasn't there, so it was like, well, I guess we're not going to go do this. And then we stopped at one like the Lower Falls kind of a thing, and I was
Yeah.
like, it's short. I was like, Mara's like, well, can I just take Juniper or just take Finley? And I was like, yeah, I'll stay here with Junie. And so they went
Yeah.
and it was pretty sweet. Like Amara and Finley really enjoyed seeing everything. And then the
Oh, that's
evening,
great.
I was able to get Juniper out of the van. Like we stopped at like
Nice.
the mud volcano, and she didn't want to
Nice.
go. So her and Amara stayed in the van.
Okay.
Actually, no, she was in the van by herself, but I could see the van from where we were at the
Yeah.
entire time we were
Yeah.
parked. And this buffalo comes like right down the hill in front of us, like
Nice.
by the boardwalk there, and he's standing by the thing. I'm like, Juniper's gonna want to see this. And then there
Yeah.
was also a deceased buffalo that had died over the winter
Ooh.
close by. So Mara went
Nice.
back, and Juniper's like, I got to see the dead buffalo.
Yeah. You
So
got to
it
see
was
the
pretty good.
death.
So we kind of
Yeah.
salvaged stuff, and it turned out to be a good trip. And then
Mm-hmm.
got home and just been things have come to light that I really need to work on myself.
Mm-hmm. Been
And
there.
and it's hitting me hard, and just
Yeah.
kind of, facing the weight of some decisions that were poor.
Yeah.
And, I upset people, and
Mm-hmm.
I it hurts. It hurts when you upset people you
Totally.
love. And it was a willful decision, and you just
Yeah.
didn't necessarily cared about the consequences, kind of a thing
Yeah.
at the time, or understand what the consequences would be. So I'm in a little
Yeah.
bit of a rut. Like I so close to
Figuring
being
things
like,
out.
I can't record. I don't know when I'm gonna ever want to record again. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where my heart's at. So it's a little
Yeah.
heavy today. But I do find it interesting that you mentioned just suicidal thoughts, because that's something that's been one of my issues. Like I'll get there sometimes too.
Yeah.
I have since I was a kid. Like I've
Yeah.
always, I don't know,
Yeah.
something's
And I'll
wrong with
go
me,
through my
man.
highs and lows, or like low frequency and high frequency, but I always have them. But I'm
Mhm.
sure it's similar with you. It's like
Dude,
they're
yeah, well, it makes me
there,
feel
but
better
sometimes
knowing,
worse.
hearing you say that, but because I always feel
Mm-hmm.
like, man, like I just feel like something's wrong with me, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm different and I'm weird, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that. So
Yeah.
I feel a little less. Maybe you're just a couple of weirdos.
We're
Birds of a
just
feather
the
flock
whiskey
together.
suicides. So we are. We used to be the whiskey sensies, but it got a little dark. You know what I'm saying? So,
It's
hey, I will say this, listeners, you're not alone if you're feeling this kind of thing. And I am happy to say this, because normally I don't want to do what do you call it? Like a public service announcement. But I'll tell you this, if you're dealing with what we're dealing with, Robbie and I are getting help as much as we can.
yeah.
And if you're not, I would definitely reach out to someone, even a friend, and say, hey, here's what I'm going through. I thought it was just me, but I know it's maybe a symptom of something deeper. I don't know. But like, I will say this, all you listeners out there, we want you to live your last day on the day that last day is going to be, not by your own hand. And we care about you guys. And if you're feeling suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations, get help. And just know you're not in there alone. And I hope that helps to feel that you're not there by yourself. So anyway,
There we go. That was
that's
well
that.
said, Cole. That is
Public
that.
service announcement.
That is that.
So anyway, I missed hanging out with you.
Yeah, yeah. How anything
Yeah.
else going on? I mean, like you're just stuck in the house
I
all day holding the
no
baby, or
was so okay. So that's the thing. I'll tell you what, man. I get cabin fever like none other. I know you're a homebody and you can just soak in the home and stay there and enjoy that. But I sometimes multiple times a day need to leave the house. Like, especially like, even if it's just to the grocery store for one item, I will happily leave and just make it happen and just be like, all right, I'm gonna get the coffee at the grocery store or even at Starbucks or whatever. but not caffeinated. But anyway, so I kind of had to balance that, especially because we were in the so Beck or not Beck, Gray was born on June 29th. Or, I'm sorry, June 28th. No, it was the 29th. She was
29th.
born on the 29th, everyone. No one tell my wife she was born on the 29th.
It's
Anyway,
tricky when
we
you
were
have more than one
there.
kid and more dates and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, she was born on a Thursday morning. Oh, here's the funny story. I don't think I've told you this, Robbie. Well, I probably haven't. So, okay. So check this out. We go in Wednesday night and Heather has to get some prep basically. And she has to spend the night because she was going to be induced on Thursday morning. And so we talked to the nurses and Beck needs to go to daycare the next day. And we could have worked it out, but we're like, okay, let's ask the nurse, what is the chance that this baby's born before I am able to take Beck to the daycare? So I was like, maybe like 8 or 9 a.m. At 9 at the latest. What is the chance that this baby's born? And they're like, oh, it's almost completely unlikely. And so I'm like, sweet, I will spend the night at home with Beck. And then I'll take Beck to daycare. And then Beck's grandparents, my wife's parents, will pick her up after daycare and take care of her while I'm at the hospital with hopefully my new daughter. And so, so they're like very low chance, like it's almost out of the range of possibility because we're going to induce some point in the early morning, but it'll take hours before it really takes effect. So I'm like, sweet, done. Let's make it happen. So I take Beck home. I wake up every morning, weekend or weekdays, typically at 5:15 a.m., get some time to myself. First thing I do is usually do push-ups and sit-ups, either or. And then I will take a shower. And then I will have some time to myself, time to read, time to even pray. Love that time in the morning. But anyway, that's my typical morning. So I decide at 5:15 on Thursday morning that I will forego the push-ups this morning because it's going to be a crazy day. I don't even know why I fully was like, why I shouldn't do it today. But I was like, I'm going to skip the workout today. And I hopped right in the shower and I get out of the shower and but that night, like I set my phone volume to like high and apparently I didn't fully do that. Even though the volume was there, it wasn't like full volume. So anyway, I get out of the shower, put on I didn't even put on clothes. I think I like put some beard oil in basically and put on deodorant, leave the bathroom and see that there is 12 missed calls on my phone at like it's about I don't know 5:30 in the morning at that point. And I see 12 missed calls. And then at the moment I get out, my mother-in-law is calling me. And I pick it up and like, hey, everything all right? And she says, get to the hospital immediately. And that's all she says. Good news? No. Bad news? No. That's all she says. And so basically we work it out where Heather, like very quickly, Heather's sister lives 5 minutes away. So she picked up Beck and basically was able to take her to daycare. And I booked it to the hospital, which was 25 minutes drive away because we went to the nicer one in town because we planned it. And it wasn't like we needed to go to the closest one. Anyway, so I am freaking out on the inside and like trying to be positive with Beck and be like, we got to wake up. Everything's okay. Mommy's okay. Everything's fine. I'm like freaking out, thinking potentially like, I hate to say this, but I was like, my wife might not be okay. Like she might be in a very, like you think of the things that can go wrong with pregnancy. And I was planning for the worst. Anyway, I go to the hospital, book it into the hospital, like literally out of breath by the time I get to the room. And I see Heather is holding Gray. And I'm like, thank God.
Oh.
I'm just feeling so good because that's all I had. I just didn't know what was going on. And then I was able to like check the voicemails later. And basically I'd missed her birth by 15 minutes. She was born on my way to the hospital, but I didn't even care. I was like, my wife and baby are okay. And so that was the good news. But it was kind of a funny story how it kind of like came together. Yeah. So that was fun. And then also in the meantime, I won a bottle on the ABC lottery. I won
Nice.
a Weller single barrel, which is like one of the most rare outside of William LaRue, basically. It's a once a year
Sweet.
drop from the company. So I might hold on to it and might trade it because I'm really trying to trade up. I might add another bottle to that. And I'm really trying to trade up for an Eagle Rare 17. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's that. What do you say? You got anything else to say before we move it over to our history segment?
No, man, let's take a quick break.
Let's do it. Let's head over to break. We'll be right back after this quick walk. And we're back. Oh, we're back. We're back, all right. And so we're really want to get quick shout outs. First of all, Dramhound on Patreon upped his Patreon giving to the Chill Filtered Flask tier, and we are so appreciative of Dramhound. And Dramhound is the best, and so is that sweet Dram pup of his, Willow. So shout out to Willow as
There you
always.
Baller.
Shout out to that's right. Shout out to all the listeners who reached out, said congrats, all those nice things. They said we appreciate you. And yeah, that's all I got for shout outs and notes to get to. Also, a shout out to Justin from The Smoked Oak on Instagram. He is who provided the sample we're drinking today of Penelope Toasted Barrel Strength. It was a barrel pick. So this is not, I mean, this is our first Penelope whiskey on the podcast. In fact, we have recently been talking about Penelope when they recently got bought out. And it's funny when we mentioned that we have not done Penelope yet. The funny thing is a lot of people reached out and they're like, you need to try Penelope. So I'm really excited about this episode. I'm really excited about tasting Penelope because actually another quick shout out to at least John Hughes, who sent us like 5 or 6 like Penelope samples, as well as what was shown last week's episode of the Jim Beam decanter from like 1969. Nice. And so yeah, a lot of people were like, you really got to try Penelope, and I just didn't even know. So thanks for educating us, but we'll educate ourselves when we drink it. So thanks for sending that out as well, Justin and John. So there will be some cool history. It's kind of base level. First episode we're doing on Penelope. So anyway, Penelope is a bourbon, is kind of the company, and it's a newer American whiskey company known for exceptionally sourced bourbon products. But you might not be able to say they're sourced anymore, but we'll figure that out. The company was founded by a guy named Mike Palladini and his friend Danny Polise. Polise in 2018, so only like 5 years ago, and that's based out of Roselle, New Jersey. The founders, very young guys. They look like our age, somewhere between me and you, Robbie, and very young guys, at least by the pictures that I see. They were friends since childhood, shared a passion for bourbon, and set out to create their own brand that embodied their love for bourbon. And like most small whiskey companies, they sourced, and that was kind of their thing. I don't even think they decided to make their own at all, from what I saw, and they don't need to at this point because they got bought out by the company they sourced from, basically. So we'll get to that. But the name Penelope was chosen as a tribute to Danny Polise. I don't know, Danny's daughter. And it basically represented family values as an idea of passing down traditions. His daughter, at the time when the company came out, was upcoming to be born, and her name was Penelope. So they named it after her. Committed to producing high quality, small batch bourbon using traditional techniques and premium ingredients that are not their own ingredients. And all their distillate comes from MGP in Indiana, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. The company places a strong emphasis on the blending process, meticulously combining various aged bourbons to create what I would consider a harmonious profile and complex flavor. So anyway, The company's core series is made up of 4 bourbons. There's their Penelope 4-grain bourbon. They have a Architect bourbon, a barrel strength, and a toasted bourbon, which have all garnered critical acclaim and awards in the whiskey industry. In addition to their flagship bourbon, Penelope bourbons. Penelope offers limited edition releases, a lot of barrel picks, and some crazy cask finishes, such as rosé cask finishes, which is one of the ones that John Hughes sent us, is a rosé cask finish one. Exploring unique flavors, finishes to cater to whiskey connoisseurs' tastes. Anyway, I'm reading off of what I wrote. I never printed it out today, so I got to scroll down. But anyway, Penelope Bourbon has expanded its distribution to multiple states. So I haven't seen it in Virginia yet, but it's definitely expanding. Apparently, the company is committed to sustainability and definitely takes advantage of eco-friendly practices in their production processes. Somewhat strong social media presence. We'll have to start following them and see what they got. But recently they got bought out by Luxco. Luxco was owned by MGPI or MGP or MGP Ingredients or Ross and Squibb. And that's really saying something, because if Penelope is buying barrels from MGP and they do such a good job with them that MGP is buying them back and saying, whatever you're making, we just want to sell that now. That's a big deal for a 5-year-old company. So kudos to Penelope for being that. That's about all the history I got on. Oh, we got a doorbell. Who's at my doorbell? Anyway, did you hear that?
No, I couldn't hear it.
Okay, yeah, maybe our listeners will. But this is sent from Justin, and Justin wrote a few notes on this specific barrel pick. So I'll read them real quick. He said this one is a toasted barrel strength. I already wrote it down on the page now that I think about it. But so check him out, Smoked Oak, on Instagram. But he got this from a certain store. We'll get into that. But you normally don't see a barrel strength toasted variety from Penelope. So this is a special release. This is very barrel pick right here. And they're normally, the toasted varieties are at 100 proof. But this one is 111 proof in this case. And normally it is a typical 3-grain. Normally the toasted variety is 74% corn, 21% wheat, and 5% malted barley. But in this case, apparently this one is a 4-grain mash bill, which is 75% corn, 15% wheat, 7% rye, and 3% malted barley. So this is this is a one-off for Penelope. So if you're like, if we give this a really bad review, don't expect that to be the case for all of their standard or non-standard products. So 4 years aged, and then finished in a Char 3 toasted new barrel. And I believe their typical, this is another one-off. I believe their typical Char is a 5 for their toasted, finished, re-barreled basically. I think their toast is typically, or Char is a 5. So, but 4 years old, Char 3 for their new barrel. They're reused, or not the reused, their secondary fill. This is batch 3658 from a store called Liquors at the Lake. And the title of this barrel pick is Lake Chicken and Rice. Don't know why, but another huge shout out to Justin from the Smoked Oak on Instagram. He didn't mention the bottle price, but here's an idea maybe of where it was at. Their normal toasted release is $70 a bottle, and their barrel strength is about 65 a bottle. So maybe somewhere between 60 and 80 is where he got this one, the toasted barrel strength. So with that, let's crack into it. Did Justin send you some Liquid Ministry bottles for yours?
Yeah, I got a Liquid Ministry.
Yeah, what a baller. Whoa. Oh, that's terrible. There we go. And it got a nice electrical tape on it to make sure it's protected. So we love you, Justin. Thanks for he's a late joiner in terms of a big fan, but he is a big fan and we love him. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
there is some heat on this. It's
really?
Nice and appley.
Ooh.
It's got a little bit of a rye spice to it too.
Wow. That's got a great nose.
this, like those surprise spices, like maybe lean more to like a cinnamon, but with like a mint to it. There's a little bit of minty underneath it.
Yeah.
It's really nice nose. I think there's a lot going on
Yeah.
here for sure.
Okay, hear me out. I'm not talking apricots. I'm talking peaches. Light, fresh peaches.
Like a white peach.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And not like peachios, like fresh white peaches.
I can see it.
Really nice nose.
I mean, there's a lot going on there. It's not just like it's a bourbon, right? Like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, very sweet, very brightly sweet, not like a brown sugary sweet, which might be like a darker sweet. This is a bright sweet here. Yeah, I love the nose.
Ooh.
What do you think? You just sipped?
Yeah, no. Just like the nose, there's a lot going on this palate. Like it's
wow.
First, I got kind of like a little bit at the very beginning, some medicinal kind of like this could go bitter, and then all of a sudden, it just like popped into this bright toasted corn kind of a thing. And then like I am getting a little bit of like menthol, minty kind of finish. But I mean, there's a lot. I mean, then that was just like
a lot going on,
and I didn't really have time to figure out what was going on because Cole was kind of done talking, so I had to stop thinking about it. So I'm gonna go for my second sip here. What do you?
Yeah, you go for your second sip. I'll talk a little bit about what I got. It is pretty complex. I wouldn't say you're getting waves of flavor. You might be getting one or two, but there's just a lot of notes that you can draw from this. I got a beautiful oakiness that made me think maybe this is what's going on with that secondary fill of the barrel of a new barrel. It's not over oaked at all. Really pleasant. Sweetness. The oak is working well with the fruity notes I'm getting. It's not your typical like Buffalo Trace mash bill number 1 or 2 where you're getting like just baking apples or really nice fresh apples or green apples. It's just a fruitiness that is bright. It's almost like a fruit juice as opposed to just apples. Let me go for that again.
I'm not quite with you. So my second sip definitely different than my first. I didn't have an entry buzz, so maybe that's affecting it a little bit. But it does kind of like it starts one way and then like this time the boom of like toasted corn came towards the end. But really overall I have this nice lingering menthol kind of a finish with a light sweetness to it. Like it is, I don't know. It's interesting for sure. Like this is, it's not bad. And I don't know, like I'm not quite even in the realm of like scoring it yet, but this is interesting for sure. Like it is definitely.
Yeah. The second sip was different.
Yeah.
I got a finish on the second sip that was, I can't say it was bad, but it wasn't as good as the first sip. It lingers. It kind of darkens a little bit. I'll try to put my finger on it in terms of like clarifying what I mean by that, but it kind of just like darkens a little bit. The oak, it's like I said, it's not over oaked, but the oak takes over a little more at the finish.
Okay.
But this is different. I got to say, there's nothing I've tasted that is just like this.
Yeah, for sure. And back to what you're saying about oak the first time around, I think it is like really well oaked. Like it's there, but it's not like, I mean, there's so much other stuff. Maybe it is very prominent, but everything else is very prominent. There's just so much going on there that I don't know. Drop some water.
Okay.
It brings out the oak in the nose a little bit more. Strangely, I'm not getting more heat like you sometimes get with the water drop. Light sweetness, a little more muted, but not bad on the nose.
Sorry. I had something in my throat and then I sniffed right in and it didn't help. Yeah, for the nose for me, it didn't improve it with some water. Getting oak front and center, but not over oaked, but oak is taking over in terms of the nose notes I'm getting. So not as much that white peach or anything like that. I'm not getting that at all now.
Yeah, there's a lot less sweetness for sure. All right, first sip with the water. It was kind of dead. A little bit of that mintiness, not a lot of sweetness. And then it got Like the one thing I will say, like similar to the first neat, I keep it all of a sudden it's like woo, like it just grows in warmth. This time it's more oaky. Like I think the oak on it is too prominent. There's less sweet. It gets kind of more like it's not medicinal, but it kind of heads that bitter medicinal side of things.
Yeah.
It's just not as sweet with water.
To be honest, I don't love it. I wouldn't put this on. I wouldn't go out and buy it if it were just this with the water, especially for the price.
Whatever proof we hit, that was not it.
Yeah. A few drops of water did not improve this. I really did enjoy the neat pour, but I don't love the water pour because it bittered slightly. It didn't get like super bitter, but it was too bitey on the alcohol, and it reminded me of like a bad Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Okay.
Some people will say there's no bad Elijah Craig barrel proofs, but there are ones that are worse than others, and this reminds me of one that was just too bitey on the alcohol vapors and stuff. So I'm gonna take one more sip of the water pour.
I'm a little worried about my notes right now. As I grabbed my ice, I got like soap notes. Like maybe I got some
soap notes.
A soapy cup that was in it.
Did your girls squirt or squish soap into the
ice tray? Maybe.
Yeah.
No, didn't get it that time. So I don't know. I did like, or maybe like, you know how sometimes like you don't rinse the cup or your hand well enough after you wash. Yeah. It was like that kind of soapiness. So nose wise, I get a little bit of oak.
Better than water.
Yeah, I get a little bit of oak. It's not super sweet or anything else. I'm just light oakiness. That's about all I'm getting on the nose. I'm going for a sip-a-roo here.
So far, I just sipped the ice pour. So far, better than the water pour, but not even close to the neat pour. It's got a bitterness, but it's got a sweetness too. Like it starts sweet and then kind of has this weird bitter finish. You're not getting that. You're getting a little bit of those fruity notes that I'm talking about, but they're enveloped in the bitter. Don't dig it with ice. I'm actually going to pour a little bit of this back in my neat glass to get a better feeling of it before I give it a rating. But I'm going to take one more sip of the ice pour.
I will say, ice-wise, yeah. I don't know if it was. I do get a little soapiness, which typically that's a note Cole gets. I don't usually get that, so I think I'm a little thrown off. It wasn't. It was kind of more on the bitter side, so maybe it wasn't a unwashed or a squirt into the ice machine. But it was a little bit more on that medicinal side. Kind of was in there. I will say the thing I like about this a lot is that heat still kind of blooms. Also, like it's not there, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, here I am. This is an interesting bottle for sure. It's got a lot going on. It is complicated in every facet. Like it really is nice. Like nose is nice, especially neat. Palate was awesome. It was like even first sip to second sip is like, oh, I'm getting a little bit different. So it's unique. Yeah. You formulating an idea to your rating?
I'm going to take one more sip of the neat pour real quick.
All right. I'll go first then. I'm going to give this an 8.9. It doesn't hit on notes that I'm really like, wow, this is like flavor wise, but I do like I said, it is complicated. There's a lot going on. This is one of those ones where you want to bring it to a whiskey party where people actually want to sit and talk and go through profiles and kind of what they're getting, because there's a lot going on. This is one that's going to be horseshoes and hand grenades, man. Someone's going to say something like, I didn't see that, but now I can see where you're going with it, because it is all over the place with some flavors. So I'm going 8.9. What do you got, Cole?
I love it. I'm going to go a little less.
Okay.
I respect what they're doing. And like we said, this is kind of a one-off. But I'm going to go at 8.7 here. I like it, especially neat. I wasn't really impressed with the water ice pour, but I'd like to think they intended it neat. So I'm going to just base it off of that. I really dig the fruitiness. I really dig the brightness of it with a neat pour. I think it is a good proof. I think the oak is beautifully done with the fruitiness. But it didn't blow my mind, but it was up there. So that's why I give it 8.7. It was close to that 9 range. I am intrigued to try more from Penelope, especially one of their, like, we got 2 batches or 2 builds of their architects. And we got a few, like we have their rosé, and they have another one that's aged in like Japanese oak or something like that. So I am intrigued to try more.
Absolutely.
But 8.7 is my rating on this one. So
sounds good.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about ratings, are you prepared, Robbie, for the next segment of the show that we
Let's
like to
go.
call a Whiskey World News?
And we're back. Part of the show where we read an article, we talk about it, and going to read it. Here it goes. And this one comes from The Tasting Table, written by Michelle Welsh, entitled How a Whiskey Glaze Can Elevate Your Bread Recipes. Reaching for booze may not be your first instinct when placing bread in the oven, but you may want to consider swiping your next carby creations with a splash of liquid gold. Chefs have been washing crust with whiskey to add flavor and texture to soda bread, Aron Spiros rye spice bread, cinnamon pull-apart bread, and hearty loaves of sourdough. Yes, the ingredients help make better tasting bread might be hiding in a bottle. And it's time to get on the whiskey washing bandwagon. Hey, the whiskey wash.
Hey, Nino Marchetti. Nino Kilgore Marchetti.
Whiskey and bread are made using similar ingredients, wheat, barley, and rye. Just ask Chef Mark Donald, who is in charge of the Michelin-starred restaurant inside Scotland's oldest whiskey distillery.
Nice.
And crowns bread with ingredients found at the distillery. As told at the tasting table, Donald heats malted barley water, a process similar to the way in which whiskey is made, until the liquid forms a molasses-like syrup. After mixing the reduction with butter and beer, Donald swipes the wash into the crust of the loaves of bread to crystallize and create a crunchy exterior. Irish spice bread is made in a similar fashion, yet the combination of butter, vanilla, powdered sugar, and Irish whiskey that is piped onto the baking bread results in a breaded treat sweet enough to be confused with cake. Baking loaves of whiskey can invite new aromas in the familiar bread recipes, and notes of smoke, herbs, and honey can enliven crusts. Some chefs pour whiskey directly into the dough, aiming to make whiskey-infused slices that are perfect for toasted cheese sandwiches and to serve with scrambled eggs and avocado mash. For those enjoying sweeter pieces of bread, whiskey glaze can complement cinnamon sugar recipes. Think of fluffy cinnamon rolls drizzled with glazes made from powdered sugar, whiskey, and cream. A perfect recipe to offer for boozy brunches. Soda bread can be upgraded with whiskey washes. Simply whisk equal parts whiskey and milk and brush loaves before baking. Last thing it says here, when making your washes, opt for fuller, rounder whiskeys or experiment with independent labels to impart unique flavors in your baked goods. If you're worried about serving besotted loaves guests, rest assured that a good portion of alcohol will be cooked out of your bread, leaving only subtle taste behind. As an added baking bonus, whiskey that isn't used in your recipes can be served as a dram later on. Beer, bread, take a seat. Whiskey bread is here to play. Nice. Any thoughts there, Cole?
No, I do. I think, it's a very interesting thing when they mention that, like, they come from the same ingredients: the yeast, grain, water. That's about it. Bread and whiskey. And I thought about it when you were talking. I was like, man, I wonder how bread would taste if we glazed it with Redbreast 12 cask strength. Like, probably fantastic. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I think you mentioned in our break time that this might be a stretch of an article, but I think this is actually a great article because we don't think about that often, of like that, whiskey could be used in a way that is not just drinking, but enjoying food as well, and baking especially. I'm intrigued. I got to start looking up some recipes that I can glaze Irish whiskey onto my baking, like bread and stuff like that. So I don't know. What do you think?
Similar. I think it's kind of cool. It's something I hadn't thought of. And next time we do a loaf of bread, I might just give this a shot. It's interesting. I like the way it goes.
Yeah, it's gotta be like a sweeter bread though. That's what I would say. You don't want it on like a sourdough or something.
Well, they said you could do it on your sourdough.
Okay.
I don't know.
Try it maybe.
But sometimes a little sweet and sour is all right.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So no, I was intrigued by that. You don't think about that often.
Price check on VagiClean. She's cooking a She's got a bun in the oven and smells like she's cooking sourdough.
Oh,
Me, myself, and Irene. I watched that
you
other
know,
day.
I've only seen the beginning of that movie where Jim Carrey has like 3 sons and they're all black.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really funny.
It is a hilarious movie.
I'll have to check it out.
I was watching like some outtakes from it or like behind the scenes thing. And the part was like, all right, kisses. And like he totally improvised that part. And the first, like, you see the guy like kind of hesitate and go in, and the other guys have to do it. It was pretty awesome. I don't know.
Speaking of what do you call it? Like pop culture. Pop culture. I got to see Future Islands on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
Yeah. And it was fantastic. I was like telling the guy that came with me, who's like a somewhat fan of Future Islands. Like he had seen them before and had appreciated them through seeing them before. Probably wasn't as big a fan as I am, but still, I was like, I really hope they play these 3 songs. And they played those 3 songs. Nice. And some of them weren't like top songs. So I was like really excited. The dude, some people who know Future Islands, like Jason Preston, for example, knows that the singer, his name's Samuel T. Herring, is very special when it comes to dancing when he sings. And like he gets into it. Worth looking up if you're interested. Ask me about it if you're extra interested. I'll show you a video. But very fun concert. And so there's concerts, there's good concerts, and then there's good concerts with really energetic crowds. And that was that concert. Very energetic crowd. Actually, some of the biggest encore chants that I've ever seen in a concert. And even including like stadium concerts. Like they were begging for them to come back to the stage when they ended. And I was here for it. So anyway, it was good. Yeah.
I think, I don't know, the whole like cheer for the encore.
Yeah.
I think the band just needs to say, here we're putting a decimeter out here. When it hits this decibel level, we'll
head right back out.
And it's more, so it's less of like, come on,
please.
Although I will say, like there's some bands like what we saw, churches, where they kind of do like the lead singer does like a wardrobe change and like it kind of is like an artistic thing that comes back out. So I can understand like you just need a little time to like take a quick pee and stuff like that.
But like,
just
if
say
you
that.
Gotta chant loud enough. It is a little bit of a, what's the word? Like,
it's just a trope that you're just like, oh my god, come on! Like, do I really gotta cheer? I mean, I guess
it's like we really want you back. We want at least 1 or 2 more songs.
Or just be like, hey, we had to go take a piss.
Yeah,
give us 5 minutes, and if you hit the decimeter, we'll play 2 extra songs.
When we got there, the venue, it's very hot right now in Richmond, Virginia, and they came to Richmond. And for up until like 5 minutes before the main act came on, Future Islands, the AC finally kicked in and it wasn't on. And I was like expecting the whole concert to be AC-less. And it was rough up until that point. Like I already had I had a patch on my shirt of just sweat. But
a trench of swampy goodness.
Exactly. And I was wearing full out jeans, so you never know. But the lead singer was soaked. Like first his shirt and then his jeans were just soaked. He did this move one time because I said he's into dancing and all that. He did this move where he slid on his chest across the stage on his wet, sweaty shirt. It was great. It was a great concert. So anyway.
When we went to Mexico, we landed in Dallas. And the air conditioner was not on, and like we had like all of our bags, and the girls carrying them. Like I was like, "This is awful."
In the airport, it was
in the airport. Yeah, I'm like, I expect you kind of expect that when you land.
Yeah,
in like Mexico or Ethiopia and like places like that that I've been to, where I'm like, did not expect it in Dallas.
Yeah, no.
So
it must
have been
crazy issue, but
anyway. It was nuts.
So apparently, you've got what whiskey would you choose from me?
I do. And don't know anything about last week because I've been taking my time off from posting
those. He was in Yellowstone, people. Sorry.
This week, kind of based on our article, what is your favorite food and whiskey pairing?
Oh, so that's a good
if
question.
You're going to have
this
a food really and add some whiskey to it, or even use it in the cooking, whether it's adding a wash to your bread or putting a whiskey flambe on your favorite pork chops and applesauce. If you're going to do whiskey and food, what's it going to be, Cole?
It's got to be sweet for me. At least the most enjoyable would be something sweet. And I thought about maybe some wheat, really nice wheat bread, almost like a sweeter wheat bread. But then I'm like, you know what? I think the best thing you can drink a good or eat to enjoy with a good bourbon, especially, is apple pie. So apple pie and Stag Junior. I think Stag Junior has enough appley notes at a high proof to enjoy, and even draw together those kind of sweet notes.
So you're drinking Stag with your apple pie.
Yes, that's correct.
I like that. That'll work. That's different than I thought the question was going.
Oh, you're saying food that had infused whiskey.
Yes, you don't have to so that you can. Your answer definitely works because that's cool. Food in the whiskey, and I think that's a great pairing. If you want to stay with that, you can.
Yeah, I'll say add a little swig to the the macerated apples as well.
There you go. I don't think that would hurt at all. Nah. Actually, post-cooked apple pie, drop a little whiskey on there, put some whiskey in a spray bottle, just mist it up.
Give it a wash.
Do that. I like that. Yeah. I'm going sweet as well. I love Buffalo Trace bourbon cream. Totally. With a little bit of vanilla ice cream. It is so delicious. It is so delicious. And I just drizzle some on that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. I like that.
Even though the Buffalo Trace bourbon cream isn't a whiskey, it is apparently Buffalo Trace mixed with cream. So we're going to count it. So
okay, so I guess backing up, I just want a little bit of Buffalo Trace mixed with cream. I'll mix it with my cream first.
Yeah. I love it. No, that's great. Next week, I think we're not gonna put it out yet. We're not gonna say what we're putting against each other, but we will put out a 2-pick Tuesday this week. So keep an eye out on Instagram.
So are you back? Are you back, or is it just like a 1 week kind of a thing?
I want to say I'm back.
Okay.
Do you have anything lined up?
I am poor at planning, but I am working on stuff.
Okay. Maybe plan one more just in case.
I'm working on it.
Okay. Did you hit up Bruzel?
I did.
You did?
Yes. And
you're not a coward.
That he might be able to work something for next week. So
nice.
And then I'm so proud of you, Robbie. I've got something else on the back burner for next week as well.
I am so proud of you, Robbie. I thought you would be a coward and would be like, no, he's too busy or something like that. Not that you're in general a coward.
No.
But I was he's going to back out of this.
So I would never be a coward about stuff like that. I don't like to plan. I hate planning. I'm awful. Mm-hmm. It stresses me out. Gives me so much anxiety. That's one reason I love teaching in my special education classroom, because I have so many kids that just need kind of the same structure. I'm like, I can do the same structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As soon as it's something outside of my typical wheelhouse,
yeah.
But yes, we'll see.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So maybe just plan one more just in case we need to adjust a little further, but we'll put it out this week and hopefully.
I will say this. If any listener out there wants a little insight into not the Bruzel, but what is on the back burner, message me. Message me on my Instagram, and I'll talk to you about it, because it's kind of one of those things. On our dead low. Yeah. Message me.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Robbie.
Well, thank you,
Robbie.
Cole.
I hope that you become better from this hard time you're going through right now.
I appreciate that, Cole. And I hope just talking to you today, man, helped me out a lot. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I hope you know that I truly needed my chill filter therapy today.
I appreciate that. And I hope I didn't even know I needed it. I almost backed out on it. But most of all, listeners, I hope our love of whiskey lifted your spirits.
Used to be the whiskey sensies, but it got a little dark, you know what I'm saying?